Church can be like a different country sometimes. Am I wearing the right thing? Do I stand up or do I sit? What's up with all the singing? Do I have to put money in the basket? There are people who've been here week in, week out for years that still feel like a stranger in a strange land. So to them, to you, to everyone, let me just say, relax, breathe. The walls are still standing. Nobody's watching you. Somebody's glad you're here. In the next hour, there will be times to listen, times to sing, times to stand, and times to sit. But the best thing you can do, and the only thing you have to do, is wait. Wait for the God of creation, the God who made you, the God who right this very minute can hear every thought bouncing around in your head. Wait for Him to speak. It might be actual words, but it probably won't. It might be a picture in your mind, but maybe not. It might be a slight tug at your heart, an unnameable feeling that something is happening. And maybe it won't happen today at all. But still wait, because the God of Israel, the God of Jacob, the God who came to earth as a man and marched into hell itself is coming. Coming for you, not in anger, not in judgment, but in love. He sees you. He hears you. He thinks that you matter. So don't worry about standing or sitting or who's watching or what the person next to you is thinking. Just wait. Just wait.
Well, good morning. Good morning. In our Sunday school class just a few minutes ago, we asked ourselves the question, why do we come to church? She just described that so beautifully. This is why we worship. Be quiet and listen and pray. God will speak to us during our worship service, some way, somehow. And we're so glad to see you here this morning, Beth. Visitors, you are so welcome. We're glad you're here. And we know you're going to get a blessing out of our service. If you will turn your bulletin over, there's several things going on that you need to be aware of. The first one is lead team will be meeting tomorrow night. We'll be meeting at 6 o'clock. And again, the Reverend Tammy Coleman will be coming down from the Kentucky Annual Conference and meeting with us as we work our way through how to become better disciples, as we talk about discipleship. And so lead team, please be for that. We'll have a dinner, a small dinner, so we can get right into our meeting with her. So tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, lead team, please be here. Also, if you have some clothing that you want to get rid of, see Kathy. She's collecting clothing for StepWorks. This is a drugs treatment center, and they're needing some warm clothing, women's clothing. So if you have some you want to clean out, please see her and give those to her. She'd appreciate it. March 3rd, Don, do you have a video for this on Peter? March 3rd, we'll be starting our Lenten study, small group study. It's on Simon Peter. And the name of it is Flawed but Faithful Disciple, and it's written by Adam Hamilton, and he will be leading that study through the video. So if you'd like to sign up for that, please sign your name back there, but we're going to get a preview of what this study is about.
He was an ordinary fisherman who heard an extraordinary call. He wasn't rich or educated, but familiar with hard work. He was quick-tempered and impetuous, but possessed a passion that would change the world. He left everything to follow his teacher, yet struggled with doubt and fear. But Jesus saw in him what others did not: a rock on which to build his church. Join us as we explore Simon Peter.
Thank you, Don. I think you can see it should be an exciting small group study. Please, if you want to be a part of that, sign up so we can get the books ordered, and that'll start in a couple of weeks. Also, our Lenten Lunch series will be starting March the 6th, and it will start at the Stanford Christian Church. They will be holding that. Then on the 13th, it will be at the Presbyterian Church, and on March 20th, here at our church, we'll be hosting the Lenten Lunch. So if you want to put that on your calendars, and once again, we will put all the churches involved in that, so you can, plan ahead. But March 20th, it will be here as we host the Lenten Lunches. We touched upon this last week. You will find a fact sheet from General Conference, and hopefully you hung on to those, but please be praying this week. February 23rd through the 26th is when the General Conference will meet. And once again, they will be discussing the various plans on how to approach human sexuality. And it's all described in here. You can read those in detail. So if you need to know more about that, please see Jeff or myself, and we'll try to fill you in on the activities that are going on during this very, very special meeting. But please, pray. And the conference even suggested if you want to fast, you can do that as well. And but it's very, very serious for the Methodist Church in general all over the world. So please be in prayer for that. Any other announcements this morning?
Dan, we'll have a bill practice starting tonight.
All right.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. That's nice to hear, isn't it? Bell choir practice not at 6 o'clock as they're preparing for Easter. Thank you. It's going to be beautiful. Any other announcements? If not, let's be quiet, let's be still, and let's listen.
Please stand and join us as we sing Everlasting God.
Our God.
Psalm 61. Hear my cry, O God, listen to my prayer. From the ends of the earth I call to you. I call as my heart grows faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. For you have been my refuge, a strong tower against the foe. I long to dwell in your tent forever and take refuge in the shelter of your wings. So join us as we sing Trading My Sorrow. Please remain standing for our next hymn. This week we're at the point in the story of Joseph where things kind of start to turn around for him. He had been sold into slavery and then sent to jail. This week he gets called out to interpret Pharaoh's dreams and becomes basically second in command to Pharaoh. So this song is about how God's ways sometimes seem invisible to us, but He does have a plan. So immortal and invisible, God only wise. 103 in the blue hymnal, the words will be on the screen.
We've been making small mentions of it, and I keep on telling you all the same thing. What do I want you to do? I want you to pray. So we thought the most natural thing in the world was not to just print up a frequently asked questions list before you all saw it on the do this week. We thought that the most natural thing to do in leadership as a church is not to write a really eloquent Facebook post about why somebody else was right and saw it differently and I was they were wrong. We thought probably the thing for us to do is to pray together and worship. So those of you who are able, I'm going to invite you to come down and kneel and pray with me this morning for our time of pastoral prayer. I'm not going to take requests, as I said in the bulletin. But we're going to pray together for our church. The way we're going to do it, I'm going to pray for a minute, and then I'm just going to be quiet. And I'm going to invite you to do the same and lift your petitions to God in silence. And then we'll close it. Would you come? consensus on what to do with this issue of homosexuality. Lord, we want to be a holy people, a people who give honor and glory to you in the way that we live. God, we also want to love all of you. Teach us how. God, we want to be a people who are guided by the law and the truth. We also, Lord, want to be able to love everybody who comes in our doors and honor them. Show us the way. God, we have a group of delegates who are going to be coming forward to make decisions for our church. We ask that you would give them wisdom in the days to come. Prepare their hearts and minds. In a room where there is no unity, Lord, would you bring peace? In a situation where there's confusion and fear, Lord, would you wash them in your love? God, we are concerned about our church. So hear our prayers as we live in you. Hear our prayers. Thank you for the United Methodist Church. And we ask, God, that you would produce through this General Conference a church that is focused on your mission and ready to point to you in all that we do and say. I ask that you would give unity, purpose, and mind in this body of believers and throughout your church. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. It's now time for our children's moment. We'll invite all of our kids who come and made it back to their chairs by now to come on down and join the parade.
How's it going, guys? Okay, I want to make sure I was on. Sorry. I'm going to read you a story first off before we get started. And it's from Luke chapter 18. And it's Jesus. And he's telling a parable. So he's telling a story that's meant to teach them something. He's talking to his disciples. He says, Jesus told them a story showing that it was necessary for them to pray always and never quit. He said, there was once a judge in some city who never gave God a thought, and he cared nothing for people. A widow in that city kept after him. My rights are being violated. Protect me. He never gave her the time of day. But after this went on, he said to himself, I care nothing what God thinks, and even less what people think. But because this woman won't quit bothering me, I'd better do something and see if she gets justice. Then the master said, do you hear what that judge, corrupt as he is saying? So what makes you think God won't step in and work justice for his people who continue to cry out for help? Won't he stick up for them? I assure you he will. He won't drag his feet. But how much of that kind of persistent faith will the Son of Man find on earth when he returns? So what it's saying is that we're supposed to pray, right? But not only are we supposed to pray, we're supposed to pray without ceasing. We're supposed to continue to pray. I'll tell you a story. There's a little boy. And this little boy really wanted to be able to play the piano. And he wanted to be able to play the piano because his grandfather played the piano in their church. And he was so persistent. He really wanted to play the piano. He asked his parents every single day, Mom, Dad, please can you buy me a keyboard? Please buy me a piano. Please can I get piano lessons? And he asked every single day. And every single day they would say, okay, we'll see later, we'll see. Every day for an entire year he asked. And finally, for Christmas, they got him a piano, right? And he got this piano and he learned to play. And he played in church, and he started to play with his grandfather, and he even got to play the piano at his grandfather's funeral before he passed away. And so all this to tell you is that little boy could have said, Mom, Dad, can I get a piano? And they would have said, oh yeah, maybe later. And he could have never said anything else about it, and they could have forgotten about it. Could have gone on forever, and they would have just forgotten about it, and he would have forgotten about it, and he would have never gotten his piano. He would have never gotten to do what God wanted him to do, because he got to play in church, he got to worship God through his talents of playing the piano, right? But because he was persistent, he kept talking to his parents and kept talking to his parents about what he really felt like it was what he was supposed to do. They listened. God's a lot like that. No, God doesn't want us to badger him with, God, I really want a new toy, right? Nothing like that. But when God hears our prayers, God hears them. He listens. And when there's something that we need, truly need, or something that we truly feel passionate about, God can give it to us, and God feels like he wants to give it to us, and it's God's will for us to have, he'll answer, right? He'll answer. And it may not be on your time. You may not pray one time, and he may give it to you the next day. But with persistent prayer, persistent calling to God, calling out to God, God will fulfill his will in your life. God will do what he needs to do in your life because he hears our prayers. All right, so I'm going to pray for us, and then we're going to go back and have a seat. All right, we'll get ready to have service. Let's pray. Father God, thank you for this day. Thank you for everything you do for us. We are thankful, God, that you hear our prayers when we cry out to you, that you hear us when we talk to you. And Lord, that if we're quiet and we listen, you'll speak to us. Lord, we ask you to go before us. Help us to always do your will. Help us to remember to pray without ceasing, to pray always, to call out to you for the things we need, because you're listening and you're there. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, church, I'm going to read our scripture for today. It's a pretty long one, so bear with me. We're in Genesis chapter 41, verses 8 through 43, so that's where we'll start. It says, in the morning his mind was troubled, so he sent for all the magicians and wise men of Egypt. Pharaoh told them his dreams, but no one could interpret them for him. Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, today I am reminded of my shortcomings. Pharaoh was once angry with his servants, and he imprisoned me, and the chief baker in the house of the captain of the guard. Each of us had a dream that same night, and each dream had a meaning of its own. Now a young Hebrew was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he interpreted them for us, giving each man the interpretation of his dream. And things turned out exactly as he interpreted them to us. I was restored to my position, and the other man was impaled. So Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and he was quickly brought from the dungeon. When he had shaved and changed his clothes, he came before the Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream, and no one can interpret it. But I've heard it said of you that you, when you hear a dream, can interpret it. I can't do it, Joseph replied to Pharaoh, but God will give you the answer you desire. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, in my dream I was standing on the bank of the Nile. On the bank of the Nile reeds. After them, 7 other cows came up, scrawny and very ugly and lean. I had never seen such ugly cows in all the land of Egypt. The lean, ugly cows ate up the 7 fat cows that came first. But even after they ate them, no one could tell that they had done so. They looked just as ugly as before. Then I woke up. In my dream, I saw 7 heads of grain, full and good, growing on a single stalk. After them, 7 other heads sprouted, withered and thin, and scorched by the east wind. The thin heads of grain swallowed up the 7 good heads. I told this to the magicians, but none of them could explain it to me. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of Pharaoh are one and the same. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads of grain are 7 years. It is one and the same dream. The 7 lean, ugly cows that came up after are 7 years. So are the 7 worthless heads of grain scorched by the east wind. They are 7 years of famine. It is just as I said to Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. 7 years of great abundance are coming through the land of Egypt, but 7 years of famine will follow them. Then all the abundance in Egypt will be forgotten, and the famine will ravage the land. The abundance in the land will not even be remembered, because the famine that follows it will be so severe. The reason the dream was given to Pharaoh in two forms is that the matter has been firmly decided by God, and God will do it soon. And now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man and put him in charge of the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh appoint commissioners over the land to take a fifth of the harvest of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. They should collect all the food, all of these good years that are coming, and store the grain under the authority of Pharaoh to be kept in the cities for food. This food should be held in reserve for the country to be used during the 7 years of famine that will come upon Egypt, so that the country may not be ruined by the famine. The plan seemed good to Pharaoh and to all of his officials. So Pharaoh asked them, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has made all this known to you, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace, and all of my people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you." So Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I hereby put you in charge of the whole land of Egypt." Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his finger and put it on Joseph's finger. He dressed him in robes of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. He had him ride in a chariot as his second in command, and people shouted before him, "Make way!" Thus he put him in charge of the whole land of Egypt.
Things turned out pretty well for Joseph in the end, so it was a pretty happy day for him.
been doing on the life of Joseph called Legacy. Now, if you'll remember, those of you who were here last week, we talked about him interpreting the dream of the cupbearer and the baker. And we leave chapter 40 with Joseph forgotten, sitting in the jail for another 2 years. Now, when you are raising kids, 2 years passes like this. But when you are in prison, not that I've ever been there, but I hear and can imagine prison time is no time, to say the least. Now, Joseph, finally in this story, good things begin to happen. His faithfulness finally begins to lead to some fruit and some good things. The story actually reads like the ultimate rags to riches story. It is the equivalent of the homeless man who finds the discarded lottery ticket that turns out to be worth $50,000. It is the story of the gentleman who comes into a company as the janitor and works his way up to the CEO. It is that struggling single mother who finally decides to write down that story forming in her head for years and writes an international bestseller. This is what's happening here. I don't know the odds that a man who was in an Egyptian jail cell could be elevated overnight to the second most powerful position in one of the most powerful kingdoms in that time in the world. I don't know the odds of this, but I'm guessing they're pretty slim, church. This is the story that we're reading. I love this story. Who wouldn't? I love Joseph, and I love him because he's obnoxious when he's 14. Dreaming those dreams, lording it over his brothers, just as obnoxious as I was. And probably my son is too. Sorry, John, I love you. He was difficult and arrogant and hard, and he becomes a man who is faithful. A man who serves God with great integrity. I love seeing the transformation that occurs in his character. And I love what is to come. However, I must confess that it's a difficult story to try to interpret. If for no other reason, it's a decidedly modern story. It is the first story, in fact, in the book of Genesis, where God does not appear as an active participant. Think about it. Adam and Eve strolling along in the morning breeze with God walking right beside them in the Garden of Eden. Noah hears the voice of God booming in his ears, no doubt, to tell him to build that ark. Even Jacob, Joseph's dad, walked with a limp after his wrestling match with the Almighty. Don't get me wrong, God is clearly speaking and working in Joseph's life. He interprets dreams. He gets these visions of what God is going to do. But it seems to me as if it comes as a whisper, not as a shout from a bullhorn. That tempts us to believe that Joseph is the main character in this saga. But he's not. Don't believe me? Look at our text for the day. Joseph is cleaned up and shaven, as was the Egyptian custom. He is brought before the Pharaoh, and Pharaoh says, "Surely you can interpret my dream." And what does Joseph say? Joseph says, "No, I can't do it. But my God can give you what you see." When he speaks to Pharaoh and tells him about this dream, he gives him a rather forward set of advice. He says, you should have another leader appointed to lead you through this struggle. Well, that takes some guts, doesn't it? And what does Pharaoh say? Pharaoh says, surely it's got to be this man. Who else But Joseph has the Spirit of God working in him like this. Through all that Joseph does, through all that he says in the light of the story, he's trying to make clear to us, the author, that God is the one who is at the center, front of the stage. That our sovereign God is the one who is at the center of this story. Joseph is clearly a very talented guy. He's intelligent, he's able, he's put in charge for a reason everywhere he goes. And yet there is nothing that Joseph can do from an Egyptian prison cell to engineer his way out of that. Egypt's prison system was one of the best in the world in that day, but it had no court of appeals. If you were in jail in Egypt, it was not for a month. It was not for a year or 10 years. It was long-term, folks. It was where you lived now. If you'll recall, Joseph asked the cupbearer 2 years previously to speak up for him. To say, don't forget about me. Tell the Pharaoh about me and my gifts and what I did for you. And I can't help but wonder. I can't help but wonder what would happen if he really did it. After all, Pharaoh has this horrible series of dreams. And though he seeks the counsel of his experts, none of them have any idea what he's talking about. To us, it looks rather simple. They were confounded. I can't help but wonder what would have happened if Joseph would have had his request made to happen. If the cupbearer, newly restored and released from prison, would have gone to the Pharaoh and said, there's this guy named Joseph you need to let out. What would have happened if Joseph would have been nowhere to be found after Pharaoh had this series of dreams? What would have happened to the thousands and thousands and thousands of people in that area during that famine and drought? It is very clear that none of this is happening by coincidence. None of this is happening by accident. Surely you've never had that feeling. Well, I have. Lord, what are you doing? This story reminds us that God's timing is perfect. And that the God we serve wastes nothing. Whether we can see it and understand it in the moment. Faye Goddard was a missionary with OMF in the Philippines. She had just returned from the mission field in the early 60s, and she was on her first furlough. It was the natural end of this position and getting ready to start another position in the nearby area. She awoke on one of the first mornings of her furlough, and she was in quite a bit of pain. She had a horrible headache. And the next day when she woke up, she was feeling really weak, unable even to do the simplest of daily chores. And her whole body began to throb. Her condition continued to get worse and worse and worse. Finally, she was airlifted to Manila, where the doctors quickly informed her that she'd managed to somehow contract polio. She was stunned. She was 29 years old. The picture of health. She had climbed a mountain just days before. Now she was helpless, unable even to muster the strength to lift a full glass of water. She caught a flight back to the States where she was from. And she was fitted for a wheelchair and told that she was going to be handicapped for the rest of her life. Her mind went to the first day of her furlough. God had awoken her from a nap and told her that she ought to pray. And so at the Spirit's leading, she knelt beside the bed and she rededicated her life and her service to the Lord. God stirred her, and she said, Lord, I will follow you wherever you want me to go, and I will do whatever you want me to do. You will be the Lord of my life. Only this was not what she had in mind. Faye endured an extended hospital stay. And when she was finally released, she was invited by letter to join the staff of OMF in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Their invitation was kind and generous, but also less than inspiring. It read, "We'll find something for you to do." So she traveled to Philadelphia, and she showed up for her job, and she found out very quickly that the something for her to do was addressing envelopes and stuffing those envelopes and then licking stamps and putting it on those envelopes for the donors of missionaries. She became very frustrated, very quickly. She told God, Lord, surely you have more for me to do than this. And she wondered what was going to become of her life. If all of her reasons for living were being taken away. They went to the Lord again in prayer. She said she heard God speak to her more than any other point in her life. And this is what God told her. If I want you to stuff envelopes and lick stamps, what is that to you? Follow me. She responded, I don't understand, Lord, but I will do it. She made up her mind she was going to be obedient. It took her 3 weeks. Praying every day, stuffing those envelopes. It took her 3 weeks to finally decide that she was going to stay. 2 days later, her boss came to her and said, we thought that maybe you might want to try something different. And he gave her the job of writing and editing the magazine that went to donors all over the world for OMF. It was a job that fit her talents perfectly and that she did enjoy for the next 25 years of her life. See, church, God wastes nothing. And you can bet that he did not waste this time that Joseph spent in slavery and in jail. There's a couple other things I don't want you to miss from the life and the text of this story. First, I want you to understand how bold Joseph is being. He finds this dream that said that there are going to be 7 years of feasting, of harvest like they've never seen, followed immediately by 7 years of drought. This, in his dream, this dry east wind, well, the east to Egypt was the desert. And that is what was going to kill all their crops, that hot, arid desert. So Joseph comes and he says, you need to take 20%, a fifth of everything that is produced by your farmers, and put it back for Egypt to live on in the 7 years of drought. This was essentially doubling their taxes. Now I want you to try to imagine what would happen if tomorrow you got a letter or a notice that your taxes were going to be doubled. It would not be a popular decision. But this is what Joseph has to do. We are told later in this text, we're told that all of the world comes to Egypt and is able to buy food and survive during this horrible drought. And without Joseph's boldness, without immediately being able to gain the favor and trust of the Pharaoh, there's no telling how many people would have died. Joseph, we are told, is dressed in the finest of linen clothes. And this is not put in the story on accident. Not just clothes, a robe. Just so you know, it would have been a robe with sleeves. A robe that separated the ruling class from the working class. In my imagination, it looked like the robe that Jacob had given to his favorite son. Joseph was given a robe, and that is a sign of restoration. We're also told that he's given gold chains. And I don't want you to think Mr. T. I'm pretty cool. I want you to think it's probably a gold chest plate okay? It was a sign of authority and power. There's something else small, but I want you to hear it. There was a signet. A signet. You see, whenever the Pharaoh gave an order, a big change that he wanted to make, what he would do is he would sign an official document and write this change he was going to make and send it out by messenger. And the document would be sealed with wax. And then the signet ring, the sign of Pharaoh's authority, would be used to seal that as his mark. In other words, the ring that Joseph was given here allowed him to speak for the boss, for the Pharaoh, for the king of all Egypt. It was a sign that he had all of the authority in the world. We're told later in this text that Joseph was 30 years old and he was elevated to this position, second in charge of all of Egypt. 30 years old. That would have been very young. He spent 16 years, half of his life, getting ready for that job in the worst sorts of ways. Wrongfully accused, persecuted, thrown into slavery for less than what a slave would have been worth. And then, well, put in jail for several years as well. The question that I cannot help but escape is if the snotty kid in Genesis 37 would have been ready to do this job without all that suffering. Without all those trials. Certainly not. It took some humbling. And some of us need a little bit more humbling than others, right? It took some humbling. I was reading a book by Leonard Sweet this week. Brilliant guy. He said something rather simple that blew my mind. It said this. He said, whatever God calls you to do, it's going to be bigger than you are. If you can do what God has called you to do on your own strength, where no faith is required, then God did not call you to do it. If God gives you a dream or a mission, then it's more than you could handle. Faith is required. And when God really wants to show off, He uses the weakest, most humble instruments that God can find. Alex Haley is the author of Roots. Brilliant guy. And in his office for years, he had a picture of a turtle sitting atop a fence post. It was distinct. It was very different from the rest of the decorations in his office. And so one day a reporter was in his office. He saw that turtle on a fence post and he said, "What is that about?" And Haley responded with these words. He said, "Anytime I start talking about how great my life is, or about the marvelous things that I've been able to accomplish, I remember something that my mom used to tell me. She used to say, whenever you see a turtle on a fence post, you know he had some help getting there." Make no mistake, Joseph was elevated by the hand of Almighty God. And he was put in that position for a purpose. Same purpose that Abram is told that he is being elevated and blessed for. To be a blessing. To be a blessing in the world around. All that happens in the rest of this story, and in this story to this point, is dependent on Joseph being in just the right place, at just the right time. In the right position. So today I cannot help but wonder what God is taking you through. And for what purpose? What might the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob be getting you ready for, friends? What might He be preparing our church to do forever? Who has He primed us to bless? What could the God of the universe do with one life, wholly given to Him? And In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. I invite the band to come forward and to lead us in our closing hymn. As they come, I want you to know if you'd like to respond, you need to pray, the altar is open.
Well, just like Egypt, sometimes our life may have a famine. If not, it could be in the future. But just like Joseph in that dark dungeon, God rescued him from the dungeon. God will take care of you. Do not leave being anxious about anything. The Scriptures tells us that. Just knowing God is a God of love. May God bless you.